Welcome to Math Made Easy with the Specialist. Today we'll be doing trig equations. So trig equations are actually easy, so you just need to know various steps on how to do them. So first thing, let's know how to do step one of our trig equations. So step one, what you need to do is you need to know how to isolate the trig ratio. So let's say step one, step one, you need to isolate the trig ratio. Isolate your trig ratio. That's step one. You need to know how to isolate the trig ratio. Now we need to identify what is your trig ratio. So your sine theta, in this case, your sine theta, this part is your trig ratio. So you must isolate your sine theta. So how do you isolate your sine theta? You're given 3 sine theta minus 1, which is equal to 0. So the first thing you can do here, you can take 1 to the other side. So if you take 1 to this other side, it will be sine theta. 3 sine theta is equal to 1, because every time you take something to the other side, it changes its sign. So the second thing you can do, you can divide both sides by 3. Both sides by 3. Where you have your 3 cancelling your 3, so you'll be left with your trig ratio alone on one side, which is your sine theta equals to 1 over 3. So after you have done your first part, you need to know how to do your second part. So there's part 2. Part 2 is actually easy. You just need to use your calculator. I call this reference angle, where you press shift in your calculator. So you just press shift in your calculator, press shift in your calculator. So you just press shift on your calculator, then you press the ratio that you are using to take this ratio to the other side, to take your sine to the other side. So this is how you will do it. So you will be on one side, you'll be left with theta. Let me just rub that. It's not looking good. So you just say theta. Your theta is equal to sine -1. When you press shift, then you press your sign, it will give you sine -1. You're taking the sign to the other side, and you write your 1 over 3 in there. Then you use your calculator to get the answer to that, and that is actually step 3. This is actually your step 3. Your step 3, you are just solving for theta. So in this case, you just use your calculator to solve your theta. So you just hit it with the calculator and you will discover your answer. So your sine -1 over 3 will be equal to, when you hit it with the calculator, you find an answer of 19,47 converted to decimal places degrees, and by that you have solved your given equation. So usually the question for this, they would have said solve for theta, and you solve your theta like that. So let's go to another example. So let's just take this example. Let's take tan 3 theta plus 30 minus 1 is equals to 0. So let's take, they also ask you the same question. They say solve. You need to solve for theta. So that's your question. You were asked to solve for theta. Remember, you must start with your step 1. Your step 1, we said you must isolate your trig ratio. So you must isolate trig ratio. So you just have to identify your trig ratio, then you isolate it. So when you go to your question, you'll discover that your trig ratio is your tan tan 3 theta plus 30. That's your trig ratio. This is your trig ratio, so you must isolate it. By other words, you need to put it in on one side alone. So your tan 3 theta plus 30 minus 1 is equals to 0. How do you isolate it? You need to take 1 to the other side, and when you take 1 to the other side, what happens? It changes its sign. So sine 3 theta plus 30 is equals to 1. Now it has changed its sign. So the second thing you need to do after you've isolated your trig ratio, because now you have isolated your trig ratio, this is your trig ratio on one side and whatever you've been given on the other side. So that's when you come to step 2. Your step 2 is your reference angle shift. This is your step 2, which is your reference angle shift. Reference angle, where you press shift in your calculator, shift. So you have your tan 3 theta plus 30, which is equals to 1, and you need to take your tan rather to the other side. So what do? You take your tan to the other side, then you have your 3 plus 3 theta plus 30, which is equals to, now you do your reference angle where you press shift and tan, then it will give you tan negative 1 of 1. So now you have done your part, you've done your reference angle shift. Now you come to your part 3. Part 3, step 3, your step 3, you have to solve. That's when you solve for theta. So you have your 3 theta plus 30, which is equals to tan exponent negative 1 of 1. So you must solve for theta. So you must, here's what you do. You must take plus 30 to the other side, and this is how you take your plus 30 to the other side. You just take your plus 30 to the other side, and remember, when you take something to the other side, it changes its sign. So it was plus 30, now it's going to be minus 30. So now after you have taken your 30 to the other side, you must divide both sides by 3. So you can cancel out that 3 there, divide both sides by 3. So your theta will be equals to tan of exponent negative 1 of 1 minus 30 all divided by 3. Then you get your answer by using your calculator. So you just press everything in the calculator, then you get an answer of, I think you get an answer of 5. Yeah, if I do say so myself. Get your answer of 5 degrees right there. So you have found your theta, which you were asked to solve. So let's just take a last example of the very same thing. Let's take your given cos 2 theta is equals to 2. So remember, you will be asked to solve for theta. So you must use your steps. Step 1, which you isolate your trig ratio. Step 1, need to isolate trig ratio. You must isolate your trig ratio. Then you identify your trig ratio. You see that your cos 2 theta is your trig ratio. So you must isolate it. But guess what? This is the good part. It's already isolated. It's alone on one side. So you just write it the way it is equals to 2. So the second step you need to do is reference angle where you press shift on your calculator. So reference angle, your reference angle there. So when you press shift in your calculator, when you take your cos to the other side, you take your cos to the other side. Given your cos 2 theta is equals to 2, you need to take your cos to the other side. So this is what you do to take your cos to the other side. 2 theta is equals to, when you take your cos to the other side, you press shift, then you press cos, it will give you cos of -1 is to 2. Then you have done your reference angle shift. Now you have to deal with step 3. Now you have to deal with step 3, which is to solve for theta. You need to solve for theta. So how do you solve for theta? You are given 2 theta is equals to cos -1 of 2. So you need to divide both sides by 2 so it can cancel out. 2 to cancel 2. Divide both sides by 2. So your theta will be equals to everything on the right, your cos exponent -1 of 2 all divided by 2, which will give you I'm not sure, you just hit with your calculator. I think it's 30 degrees. 30 degrees if I'm correct. So yeah, that's that. You just finished that just like that. There's no other way to do it but that. So thank you. Don't forget to like, to share, and to subscribe. So see you again in the next video.